Here are the top stories for today, September 16, 2021. The pilot run of the COVID-19 alert level system begins in Metro Manila. Some restrictions are eased to enable economic recovery, while lockdowns are limited to a smaller scale. President Rodrigo Duterte is not hitting the brakes in his move to check the Philippine Red Cross's financial records. This time, he wants a top government council to ask the Commission on Audit to request for a special audit of the organization. Another 753,000 doses of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines arrive in the country. These jabs will be deployed in areas outside Metro Manila that are grappling with a surge in infections. And the Philippines pledges its support for the international community's drive to address humanitarian concerns in Afghanistan. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for the day, it is the start of the COVID-19 alert level system with granular lockdowns in Metro Manila today. Some restrictions were eased as the country strives to balance health and economic recovery. Lockdowns will only be limited to smaller areas such as streets, sub-villages, or houses with recorded COVID-19 cases. Under the system's Alert Level 4, which is now in effect, restaurants and food establishments are now allowed to offer limited dine-in services. Only fully vaccinated persons are allowed to dine indoors at 10% capacity, while outdoor dining is allowed for everyone at 30% capacity. The same policy applies to barbershops, salons, and religious services. Outdoor tourist attractions are also allowed to operate. The Luneta Park is open from 5 to 9 a.m. for those who want to do some outdoor exercise activities. The MRT-3 has also allowed passengers 18 to 65 years of age at 30% capacity per train. Minimum health protocols will be strictly implemented to avoid transmission. The government is keen on checking the financial records of the Philippine Red Cross led by Senator Richard Gordon. In his talk to the people aired earlier today, President Rodrigo Duterte has directed Solicitor General Jose Calida to instruct the Commission on Audit to conduct a special audit of PRC's finances. More on this from Marita Mawahim.
President Rodrigo Duterte has instructed Solicitor General Jose Calida to request a Commission on Audit to look into the financial records of the Philippine Red Cross. The PRC is headed by Senator Richard Gordon, chair of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, which is probing deficiencies in the government's use of COVID-19 pandemic funds. Malacanang earlier maintained that COA can conduct this special audit, citing Article 9 of the 1987 Constitution.
I am ordering the Solgen, si Calida, to write Aguinaldo a letter and ask Aguinaldo to conduct immediately an audit dyan sa Red Cross na yan.
The President renewed the call to audit the PRC, saying Gordon has used the humanitarian organization as a milking cow for his election campaign. He also said Gordon could not scare him because corruption was not his style.
Hindi mo ako matakot not in a million years. Hindi ako kawatan kagaya mo. Wala akong Red Cross na ginagatasan araw-araw. It's not my style. 40 years ako sa gobyerno. Magnakaw pa ako ngayon lang.
President Duterte said he would allow Health Secretary Francisco Duque to keep attending Senate probes to just tell the plain truth. He earlier asked his cabinet officials to get his consent before showing up at Senate inquiries.
Sa bagay, naumpisahan na kasi, Secretary Duque, I would allow him to complete his story. Anyway, nakatestify naman siya sa House. Just to allow Gordon to show more of his stupidity. Kaya pabalik ko sila.
The president also expressed confidence that Gordon's panel would not be able to find any anomalies and that his cabinet members were all clean.
I'm asking you, said, I do not want a fight with you. But what else do you want? Yung Parmalen, yung Parmalen, bahala kayo. You can slaughter everybody there, whatever you want. Kami sa gobyerno, we ordered. There was delivery. Then we paid. Tapos na kami. Even if we continue to hear this case until kingdom come, I do not think that you will get anything there except that you want to dance before the bar of public opinion so that you'll be noticed and maybe try to impress the voters in this coming election that you're an intellectual, that you are a ghostbuster sa mga katiwalian sa gobyerno.
For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muahe.
There is no overpricing in the procurement of personal protective equipment, PPEs, and other COVID-19 supplies. This is reiterated by the Commission on Audit or COA during a hearing on the House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability.
Wala po sa COA report ng PSDBM ang statement na may overpricing po. There's no statement to that. The observations related more to inventory management than overpricing. So hindi po tama na sabihin ang COA ang nagsabi na may overprice kasi wala pong sinabi yun doon sa report.
COA has flagged the DOH for transferring 42.4 billion pesos to PSDBM for the procurement of COVID-19 supplies. The PSDBM awarded Pharmaly Pharmaceuticals Corporation contracts worth 8.68 billion pesos for the purchase of PPE and testing kits, which were believed to be overpriced. During the same hearing, former PSDBM Director and now Deputy Ombudsman Warren Leong said the medical supplies were not overpriced and there were no ghost deliveries of medical supplies.
Overpriced ba talaga ang face mask at PPE na binibili ng gobyerno noong 2020? Hindi po. Face mask, dahil tumaas ang presyo ng face mask noong umpisa po ng pandemya, naglagay po ang DOH ng price freeze at suggested retail price. So price freeze was placed at 28 pesos. Halaga po ng binili ng gobyerno ay 27.72. Some were actually lower.
Former PSDBN Director and now overall Deputy Ombudsman Warren Leong clarified that Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo is not involved in the questionable purchase of COVID-19 supplies worth 9 billion pesos. Last week, senators expressed concern why a bulk of government contracts for the purchase of COVID-19 medical supplies went to Pharmaly, which existed only 6 months before the pandemic. Pharmaly was registered in September 2019 with the Securities and Exchange Commission with paid total capital of 625,000 pesos. Senator Richard Gordon claimed that at least 3 former PSDBM officials linked with the transaction involving overpriced medical supplies worked under Senator Go. Leong said he has no link with Go and that the senator does not have any involvement in the awardings of the contract to Pharmaly.
Meron ba malalaking tao from the palace na nag-influence sa inyo na to select Pharmaly sa mga mass? Meron po ba?
Wala po, Mr. Chairman.
Meron ba nag-utos sa DBM i-award ang contract na ito sa Pharmaly?
Wala po, Mr. Chairman.
Si Senator Bongo ba ang nag-utos nito na i-award sa Pharmaly?
Hindi po, Mr. Chairman. Wala pong nag-utos.
Former Economic Advisor Michael Yang has not been involved in any illegal drug activities. This is the report of PDEA Director General Wilkins Villanueva to President Rodrigo Duterte in yesterday's Talk to the People convention. This came amid allegations made by dismissed police officer Eduardo Acierto that Yang is involved in illegal drug activities. Yang reportedly has ties with the controversial local firm Pharmaly.
Ang nag-clear kay Michael Yang ay ang Philippine National Police Directorate for Intelligence. Ang sinabi niya, Alan Lim, together with the President and Michael Yang, was presented to the media by dismissed officer Eduardo Asierto, was also dragged for alleged involvement in illegal drug trade. However, he has no reported illegal drug activities based on record of this directorate.
Villanueva said Asierto made up stories to make it appear that Alan Lim, another businessman who has alleged ties with Yang and Farmally, and a certain drug personality known as Wen Li Chen are the same person. Asierto was ordered dismissed from the service by the Office of the Ombudsman in 2015 for his involvement in the selling of AK-47 rifles to communist rebels from 2011 to 2013. In 2019, a Manila court ordered Asierto's arrest and 7 others implicated in the smuggling into the country of some 4 billion pesos worth of shabu inside magnetic lifters in August 2018. The filing of certificates of candidacy of national candidates will no longer be held in Intramuros, Manila. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said the poll body decided to do away with the traditional filing venue at COMELEC's main office due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He said the COMELEC decided to look for a bigger place that can accommodate 2,000 people. In a joint Congressional Oversight Committee, COMELEC Executive Director Bartolome Sino Cruz Jr. said the filing of COCs will be held at one of the tents of Sofitel Hotel in Pasay City. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, remains firm to register at least 70 million Filipinos by the end of the year. In a virtual interview, Assistant Secretary Rosalinda Bautista reported that over 42 million Filipinos nationwide had signed up for the initial phase of PhilSys registration as of September 10.
Na alam mo, isa sa mga objectives ng PhilSys ay financial inclusion. Kaya kung mapapansin nila sa mga registration centers, nandoon ang land bank na aming katuwang. Kasi pag nagparehistro ka at nandoon ang ating land bank na nag-collocate, pwede rin silang mag-open ng kanilang bank account.
Still to come, the latest batch of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines will be deployed in areas outside Metro Manila that have a high number of infections. And the Quezon City government is racing against time to contain the COVID-19 outbreak in a convent. Details ahead. This is the PNA Newsroom.
Kung customer ka, pupuntahan mo ba yung mukhang safe naman o yung certified na safe? Ang safety seal ay patunay na certified safe ang iyong business dahil nasusunod ang minimum public health standards. Meron din itong QR code para mapadali ang contact tracing. Ito ay libre lang. Pero, kailangang i-renew every 6 months or every year kung nasa tourism sector ang iyong business. Kung meron ka ng mga documents na ito, pwede ka na mag-apply para sa safety seal certification. May iba-ibang office para sa iba't ibang klase ng mga negosyo. Pag na-determine nyo na ang issuing authority, simple lang ang steps para makuha ang safety seal. Pumunta sa office ng issuing authority o sa kanilang website. Kumuha ng safety seal checklist at magsagawa ng self-assessment para sa iyong business. I-submit ang checklist at abangan ang inspection schedule. Pag na-approve ang application, bibigyan kayo ng safety seal sticker. Pag hindi naman na-approve, sasabihin kung anong health standard ang hindi nasunod at bibigyan kayo ng pagkakataong ayusin ito. Pag nakuha na ang safety seal, ipaskil ito sa may entrance para makita agad ng mga customer. Pwede nyo rin ipagmalaki na certified safe kayo sa inyong mga social media pages. Paalala lamang, ang isang safety seal ay para sa isang branch lang. Siguraduhin bawat branch mo ay certified safe. Siguraduhin din na nasusunod palagi ang minimum public health standards dahil baka mabawi ang iyong certification. Maaring mag-operate kahit na walang safety seal. Pero hindi ba mas mahalagang kampante ang mga customer sa loob ng iyong negosyo? Kaya kumuha na ng safety seal para ingat-angat tayong lahat.
The government procured Pfizer vaccines are intended for areas outside NCR with high numbers of coronavirus cases. Of the 753,480 doses that arrived last night, a total of 650,520 doses were sent to the Pharmacery cold storage facility in Marikina City. 51,480 doses went to Cebu and another 51,480 doses for Davao City. National Task Force Special Advisor Dr. Teodoro Herbosa, who welcomed the arrival of the jab, said the Philippines is expecting more arrivals this month and in October. The Philippines is expecting to reach or even surpass the 40 million mark of vaccinated Filipinos this week. The Quezon City government is looking into the possible cause of the COVID-19 outbreak in a convent in the city where 114 persons have been infected. A total of 64 nuns and 50 staff of the Congregation of the Religious of the Virgin Mary in Cubao yielded positive swab test results. No one among the nuns have been vaccinated against COVID-19 after they canceled their vaccination schedule, while the staff have been fully vaccinated. The RVM convent has been placed by the city government under a special lockdown of concern since September 14. Some 22 individuals from another religious institution, the Convent of the Holy Spirit, also reportedly tested positive for COVID-19 and had been placed under special concern lockdown. The City Epidemiology and Disease Surveillance Unit is conducting contact tracing and investigations on the possible cause of the infections. The Quezon City government has reminded its residents and establishments to avoid the 3 C's to control the spread of COVID-19. In a September 14 memorandum released by Mayor Joy Belmonte, all establishments are told to implement minimum health standards to avoid or mitigate the 3 C's, namely confined spaces with poor ventilation, crowded places with no physical distancing, and close contact settings with face-to-face interaction. Establishments must maintain sufficient ventilation, enforce physical distancing of 1 to 2 meters distance among persons, and implement contactless transactions. The establishment must also strictly enforce the use of face masks and face shields and regular disinfection. The memorandum contains the guidelines to be observed during Alert Level 4 status until September 30 and in the special concern lockdown areas in the city. Belmonte stressed that the city government may order the closure of an establishment if they violate the 3 C's. Healthcare workers and other authorized persons outside of residence or APORs can now enjoy free rides in modern jeepneys in 10 routes across the National Capital Region or NCR. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board said the Libreng Sakay program so far includes 8 transportation companies and cooperatives that operate within these routes. The Libreng Sakay officially began on Monday, a few days after the relaunch of the service contracting program. Under the SCP, drivers and operators will receive cash incentives based on the number of trips they have completed each week. The LTFRB is encouraging other operators to join the program. The Department of Education in Bicol Region is eyeing 305 public schools across the region as pilot sites for face-to-face classes. DepEd 5 Regional Director Gilbert Sadsad said they are just waiting for the final approval of limited in-school classes in identified rural communities with a low number of COVID-19 cases. Sadsad said under the guidelines, 12 to 20 learners would be accommodated in a classroom which must be installed with plastic partitions or barriers. The students must live near the selected pilot schools, and since classes would be a half-day session, they would not be allowed to have lunch on site. The school should also have separate entrance and exit passages where alcohol and sanitizers must be available at all times. Meanwhile, teachers should see to it that the minimum health protocols would be strictly followed. The DepEd Schools Division Office in Iloilo City will ask village officials to help map out learners in their barangays who are yet to enroll, as registration is extended until the end of this month. City Superintendent Dr. Maria Luz de los Reyes said they have yet to reach their target enrollees of around 84,000 to exceed the 81,000 enrollees they registered last school year. They are already set to ask Mayor Jerry Treñas for help through a letter in reaching out to barangay officials. As of September 15, about 74,000 learners have been officially enrolled, with more enrollees expected from kindergarten and grades 1 and 7. The low turnout was brought by the movement restrictions imposed in the city due to the increasing cases of COVID-19. Meanwhile, capacity of DepEd offices is only at 30%. She said that they looked forward to the support of barangay officials who know the situation on the ground. Private and public donors in San Fernando, Pampanga, who were inspired by the creation of food-based community pantries have set up their own education pantries that will supplement the learning needs of students. Project NEST, or Nurturing Environment and System for Thriving, has so far been established in 27 public schools in the city. In this project, children and their parents or guardians may give or avail of tangible items such as school supplies and learning materials, or intangible ones such as tutoring and counseling. City Education Consultant David Zab Jimenez encouraged parents or guardians to join the education pantry of the school in their barangay by communicating with the school head or teachers. They are also accepting tangible donations or offers of interest to serve through the school or barangay offices within their area. Meanwhile, in Antique, parents who are punctual and diligent in claiming and returning their children's modules will get the chance to join and win a raffle at the Bugasong Central School in the municipality of Bugasong. BCS Principal Dr. Daryl Argelia said the drop boxes that were placed at the gate of the school and outside the classrooms on September 13 where the parents can drop their names. The raffle draw aims to encourage parents to claim and return modules on their scheduled days. Prizes to be given away will include kitchenware and other items. Up next, law enforcement agencies assure efforts to curb possible terror threats following Japan's warning. And ready to help, the Philippines commits to helping address humanitarian gaps in Afghanistan. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Philippine Coast Guard said it sees no reason for the public to be alarmed after the Embassy of Japan in the Philippines warned of possible terror attacks in 6 Southeast Asian countries. Coast Guard Commandant Vice Admiral Leopoldo Laroya said district commanders across the country have always been on guard 24/7 to maintain safety and order within their areas. He noted that PCG intelligence officers and personnel are in close coordination with the National Intelligence Committee, Anti-Terrorism Council, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Philippine National Police to implement a whole-of-nation approach on national security. He also called on the public to be vigilant and to report suspicious persons or activities in seaports, harbors, and coastal communities. On Tuesday, the Japanese embassy released a warning of a possible terror attack in Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar. It urged its citizens living in these countries to stay away from religious facilities and crowds due to increased risks such as suicide bombings. The Armed Forces of the Philippines assured that Filipinos and non-residents are protected and kept safe from terror threats in the country. AFP spokesperson Colonel Ramon Zagala said the military continues to fight against all forms of terrorism and violence through intensified security operations aimed at preserving peace and order. Zagala said the Philippines has not received any report of a possible terror attack after the Japanese embassy in Manila said it received a report of a terror threat in 6 Southeast Asian nations, including the country. The country's defense and military sector are on constant heightened alert for terrorism-related activities and threats since the 2017 Marawi siege. Defense spokesperson Arsenio Andulong meanwhile said they are working closely with other relevant agencies such as the Anti-Terrorism Council to continuously monitor and assess terror threats within the country. The Philippines is making a financial contribution to the flash appeal of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs to address the immediate humanitarian gaps in Afghanistan. In his remarks on September 13, Permanent Representative Evan Garcia recalled the Philippines' track record of opening its doors to refugees and asylum seekers. Just last week, the Philippines welcomed Afghan nationals, including women and children, who were seeking refugee status in the country. The envoy said Manila will remain true to its time-honored commitment to provide meaningful humanitarian response and humane treatment to those who are vulnerable, marginalized, and in need, including refugees. The Philippines' pledge was made during the high-level ministerial meeting on the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan, which was convened in Geneva, Switzerland, to encourage international support for Afghan people. Parks and other outdoor spaces in Clark, Freeport, Pampanga are now open to the public starting today, September 16. Clark Development Corporation President and CEO Manuel Gaerlan said visitors are still expected to strictly follow the minimum health protocols to minimize risk and ensure everyone's safety. Only individuals aged 15 to 65 years old, except those with comorbidities or are pregnant, may participate in outdoor activities. They must also bring their own trash home, throw them in designated trash bins. Bikers, joggers, or visitors must not be grouped to more than 3 in order to maintain social distancing, except when they are proven to belong to one household. Picnics and gatherings are still prohibited. Pets are not allowed in Clark's parade grounds, and owners are held responsible for their wastes. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The pilot run of the COVID-19 alert level system begins in Metro Manila. Some restrictions are eased to enable economic recovery, while lockdowns are limited to a smaller scale. President Rodrigo Duterte is not hitting the brakes in his move to check the Philippine Red Cross's financial records. This time, he wants a top government council to ask the Commission on Audit to request for a special audit of the organization. Another 753,000 doses of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines arrive in the country. These jabs will be deployed in areas outside Metro Manila that are grappling with a surge in infections. And the Philippines pledges its support for the international community's drive to address humanitarian concerns in Afghanistan. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. Are you all set for the most wonderful time of the year? It's exactly 100 days before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day to everyone.